listening to the DVM Podcast Empire, now celebrating over 3 million downloads. 3 million downloads. Find us online at dvmpe.com.
We don't just watch TV.
We live it.
But Penn, what I want to know is what's your reaction to what's happening right now in Arkansas and Indiana, and possibly in Georgia as well?
Well, I don't want to misrepresent myself as an expert, but there is more to gay sex than cake and flowers. These people are not being asked to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex. They're being asked to sell flowers and cake to people, and that is hypothetical. Now, I'm a libertarian and an atheist, so I'm kind of fighting myself on this. I don't like the government involved in telling people what to do, and I certainly want people to have religious freedom, because the only way people who don't have religion are going to have freedom is if people who do have religion have freedom. But all the same, we have to make sure we don't get too crazy in the hypotheticals. We are not talking about forcing people to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex. We're asking them that maybe they can treat people the same as other people, and that does not seem unreasonable. It's okay, I suppose, although goofy, to be against gays, but it's not okay to be against people that simply want to use your services as a business. I mean, the free market should be able to take care of this faster than anything.
Go ahead, Kristen.
The only hypotheticals here are the hypotheticals that somehow there's been discrimination in any way outside of the free exercise and free expression context. I suspect that if we were to ask journalists whether they need to be coerced into writing messages with which they have a disagreement, they would have a problem with that. In the same way we wouldn't force
journalists
artists.
all the time.
And make no mistake.
Journalists all the time write things they disagree with.
we do it all the time.
We
talk about things that we disagree with all the time.
That's
I'd like to say
true.
something about
As a matter of fact,
American has
right
the right
now,
to live consistent with their
as
beliefs.
you speak, CNN is allowing you to say things they don't agree with. As you speak, you are proving it to not be true.
Well, I don't know if CNN doesn't
agree
agree with it.
what you're saying.
Maybe some people who work here don't agree with it. This is just a forum so people can express their opinion. You know where I stand on this. I think discrimination
you're fine with
that. That's my opinion, and I think that
Every
the people who are saying
So
that
right
this is
now,
about
you're being allowed to do that.
They're being disingenuous. Go ahead, Rita.
I'd like to
Every
say
client we have, every client we have has served gay customers. Every client.
I'd like to say something about the purpose of discrimination here. This bill in Arkansas was brought to us by the same duo who introduced the bill to prohibit the passage of non-discrimination laws in municipalities. So the city of Fayetteville, Arkansas, passed a law prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation or sexual identity. And because of that, this same team passed a state law saying cities cannot extend further rights to people than the state does. I mean, I think that's simply un-American.
Quickly, I want to get to this. I want you guys to listen to David Letterman, who is from Indiana, and this is what he said on the show last night.
This is not the Indiana I remember as a kid. We all breathe the same air. We're all carbon-based life forms. And now this guy throws a wrench into the monkey works. I'm sorry, this guy throws a monkey wrench into the works. Into the works.
The Indianapolis mayor told me here on CNN 2 nights ago that this is a solution without a problem. So why do you think this is resonating on a national level, Penn?
I don't know. It just seems like maybe it's a bunch of people who realize they've lost a battle that's very important to them, and that is to say anyone under 30 is okay with gay rights. The whole thing is ancient history. All we need is a little bit of time, and this will simply be a joke.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people are feeling that their point of view is being lost and they're becoming an anachronism, when they clutch at what they used to believe, it sometimes is not very
I have to tell you, as
a
person of color who happens to be gay and who has studied a lot about this, those same arguments, the same Bible verses, the same things people say about Jesus were used against black people and interracial marriage.
That's true.
And here it is.
Word for word.
2000.
That's absolutely
true.
Thank you.
Is it possible that we have permitted ideology, political and economic philosophies, and governmental policies to keep us from considering the very real, everyday problems of our people?
So what? my feelings are hurt, does that give me the right to prevent others from expressing their opinions?
Wait a second, Doc. Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Hey, can you push the button?
Do not touch that button.
Hey, can you push the button?
Do not touch that button.
Hey, can you push the button?
Do not touch that button.
Mr. Anderson.
Don't push it.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the latest episode of Push the Button, your number one podcast for all of the world's hot button issues. I am your host, David Vox Mullen.
And I'm your other host, Mr. Anderson.
And I'm your guest, MVP.
What's going on, brother?
Oh man, life is good, exceptionally good, primarily because I'm me.
Well, wait a minute, I have to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guest today is none other than Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
P.
We're glad to have you with us, Hassan. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. We just, Ken and I, from when we started this, about a year ago, you were one of the first people he mentioned about wanting to bring onto the show. He says that you guys always have great conversations and you're really intelligent. And you always bring, amazing thoughtfulness to your discussions. And so when we got onto this topic, we wanted to definitely see if we could get you on the show finally. So we're glad that worked out. The topic at hand is religious freedom. Now, a lot has been said most recently out of the events that have happened out of the state of Indiana. But there is... in the United States, we are founded on a concept of religious freedom. It's in our Constitution. It's the First Amendment. And just to remind everybody who maybe hasn't read their Constitution anytime recently, and if you haven't, I recommend doing it.
That old thing.
But the First Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits the making of any law respecting an establishment of religion, impeding the free exercise of religion, abridging the freedom of speech, infringing on the freedom of the press, and infringing with the right to peaceably assemble or prohibiting the petitioning for a governmental redress of grievances. It was adopted on December 15th, 1791 as one of the 10 amendments, not commandments, that the Constitution has in the Bill of Rights. So this was something that we clearly were founded on in our early stages of a baby nation. And I know
Let's add to that, if I may.
Please do.
And on our Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God wasn't added until 1952 during the height of the Red Scare.
You are 100% correct.
So the under God was a much, much later addition.
Yes.
Proceed.
Yes, and the point I'm making is. This does not establish what kind of religion. It does not name, Christianity. It does not name Judaism. It does not name Islam. It does not name Buddhism. It does not name any religion.
Satanism.
Exactly. This was something that flat out our founding fathers agreed that coming off of the tyrannical rule of the British government, they wanted to be free to choose whatever they wanted, and that they felt that the government had no say in such a choice. However, fast forward 200 some odd years, and now we have a nation where I would argue, and I know Ken has argued, that it is skewed on both sides of the coin. We have a clear separation of church and state, or we had a clear separation of church and state, correct, which is now... I would argue violently crossed the line on both sides. And it's the essence of why we're talking today. And I don't want to just be, the only one talking here, but the issue here is this is what we are founded on, but it has been grossly perverted today. And that's the problem. And that's where we're at. So let's kind of get into it.
Okay, well, before we go any further, full disclosure. I'm an atheist. I do not subscribe to any religious ideology. However, I grew up as a very young man being indoctrinated by both the Christian and Islamic faiths.
Okay.
So I've read the Quran cover to cover. I can't even tell you how many times, because during the month of Ramadan, when you fast, you have to read 1/30 of the Quran. I've read the Bible cover to cover 3 times that I'm aware that I can recall. And, it was the 3rd time that I actually truly studied it. So I'm very familiar with the holy books for the most part, and their doctrine and where they come from. And I don't subscribe to any of it. However, I do feel that, sure, absolutely, you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe. But we have as human beings, I think we have a mutual obligation to respect one another as humans. However, I think when it comes to religion, we have a problem. And me, as an intelligent, rational thinking human being, I feel that if I tell you I want to worship as Pastafarians call the flying spaghetti monster,
right.
You look at me sideways and tell me I'm an idiot. But if you tell me that you want to worship Yahweh, Yeshua, Jehovah, whatever you want to call the established Judeo-Christian Islamic God, I have to respect that. You don't have to respect me, but I have to respect you.
Well, and that's exactly why we're doing this show, because I would argue that I do have to respect that. I would argue that as an American,
that you have to respect his
that if he was worshiping the flying spaghetti monster, I would argue, and this is where a lot of, and of course, and I thank you, Hassan, for the disclosure of being an atheist. And then obviously for those who don't know, I don't know why you're listening to us now, but if you don't know, I am a Christian.
And I'm a Pastafarian.
Ken makes it up every week, so I don't know what he is this week. But I know that there are people of faith and Christians out there who disagree with me. Maybe you're right. Maybe they would judge you for...
Well, absolutely. I've been judged.
Yeah. See,
sometimes when I tell... It's funny because it's happened to me on Twitter numerous times.
Yeah.
This only seems to happen primarily with Christians. Or at least people who have identified themselves to me as Christians.
Right.
When they find out that I'm an atheist, they'll unfollow me or go so far as to block me. Well, wait, I don't ask you to follow me anyway. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
But I said atheist, not Satanist.
Yeah.
I said,
whenever I, to your point, Hassan, whenever I say that to somebody for the first time, I just say like, hey, by the way, I'm an atheist. The looks on the people's faces, it's almost as if I said, I'm a Satanist.
Yeah.
I eat small children for breakfast.
Right. No, I think it's...
When put your mouth on small children, then that would be acceptable. You'd just be moved to another parish. Somebody would be paid off.
All right, gentlemen, all right.
Or you'd be called certain holy men within the Jewish religion, because... That's how they perform their circumcisions in some of the Jewish sects.
With mouth and teeth, right?
Yep. Wow. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, I mean, Hassan, dude, that's totally wild, and I don't disagree with you one bit. I think you're 100% correct. I think that it's extremely difficult for mainly, and let's just call it what it is, mainly people who are Christians. I think it's extremely difficult for them to compartmentalize their belief structure with patriotism.
Oh yeah. That's the. But to be fair, there's over the. All right, if we go back into history, let's keep in mind that the Bible was written at a time that these collection of books that were put together as one book were put together at a time when, maybe 1% of the world's population was literate.
Absolutely.
And it's actually a very good power structure or a manual to maintain power. Slaves, be obedient to your masters, serve your rulers, obey the law, obey the king. It says it in the book in no uncertain terms. So, if we go back to the origin of it, there really was no distinction between quote unquote patriotism and religion, because the two have been intertwined and manipulated by political forces since the very inception of it.
Yeah. And then the greatest irony would be that Jesus came, and basically all these people who were ruling using the manipulation of the Old Testament, Jesus came and appeared to break all of those rules. And then, 2,000 years later, Christians are using it again to manipulate people in the same way. So, I think you're absolutely right. I don't doubt anything that you've just said. I will say this, and what really stuck with me is when you mentioned, because you said, and you look at me like I'm crazy or whatever. I would argue that atheists absolutely look at Christians or any people who have belief the same way.
I do.
Okay. And I think that you're right. I think that's an absolute right.
I don't look at the people. I've said this before and I'll say it again. That this idea that we have to respect people's beliefs. We don't have to respect people's beliefs. We have to respect people.
The people. That's fine. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
If you tell me that you think your baby can fly and you're going to try it out this afternoon, I don't have to respect your beliefs.
Let me ask you guys, and I don't even know if I brought this up to you privately, Ken, because it's really been messing with my head lately. Did you guys see the HBO documentary on Scientology, Going Clear?
I watched that.
Now that thing was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to watch as a religion basically created itself, and how it found a way to get protection under our First Amendment. What freaks me out is it's clear that it is abusive to people. It's clear that it is dangerous to basic human rights, with the amount of physical abuse that people are being put through and stuff like that. And my knee-jerk reaction was to go, oh, well, these people are crazy.
Bam.
Right?
And then you thought about it for a second.
And then I thought, okay, well, now I'm stuck because I fight for the freedom of religion. And do I want these people to be protected under the freedom of religion? When I say these people, I mean the leaders of the organization of Scientology who are abusing these people. And that's where I start to have to go back into that compartmentalization of, wait a minute, we have a clear set way that we're supposed to adhere in this country. And let me take a step backward for a minute there, because I'll go all over the map, and I apologize up front. Me believing in a God has no bearing on how the game of baseball is played. The game of baseball has a set of rules that I have to play by if I want to play baseball, right?
Correct.
Whether or not I believe in God or a son of God or a prophet or whatever, or nothing. It doesn't change how many strikes are in an inning. It doesn't change, how many innings are in a game. It's not difficult to understand the rule book of baseball and play by those rules. Why is it that this country, which has a very clear rule book, becomes this super gray area where people can't function and be of faith? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not following you.
Okay, it's a roundabout way of me saying me being a Christian has no bearing on being able to follow the rules of the Constitution of the United States. Even when they oppose, I can still be patriotic and understand and love and respect my country, and want to, play by the rules. We have laws. Follow those laws.
Okay, but now that this brings up a question, as Ken mentioned earlier, I forget exactly what part of the Jewish faith. I'm not sure if it's Hasidim, Orthodox. I don't know exactly, but they have a custom where a rabbi performs circumcision by placing his mouth on the penis of a baby and biting off the foreskin. And there was a case several years ago where apparently a rabbi passed on herpes to a child by doing this.
Right.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, by the laws that are established in the United States, that's pedophilia. That's sexual assault on a child, on a minor. But according to the Jewish faith, this is a custom that's been around for however many years, however many millennia, and was probably started by somebody who was much like a lot of these molesting Catholic priests. They got off on doing that, and somehow no one questioned it, and it was accepted, and it just became a part of their practice, protected by their faith. So how do we allow them to do this and respect their religious freedom at the same time?
Right, and I think that's where it comes into play. Yeah, and I had this conversation with a fellow Christian the other day when I watched this documentary, and I said, when is the line crossed? When you're physically abusing someone, when is it, and I was reminded that no, if a priest gets busted for molesting somebody, they're going to go to jail.
Now along those guidelines that Hassan was just talking about with the Jewish rabbi or priest or whatever, if that Catholic priest suddenly says that his version of Catholicism, his religious beliefs allow for that type of behavior, should he be protected?
Again,
like you said, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, well, I think we need to draw the line at when it affects other human beings' lives.
Okay, but let's back up for 1 second, because you mentioned, abuse, physical abuse under, the Scientology faith.
Yeah.
But I know the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. The Bible advocates beating kids. And
so the question is what is considered abuse?
The Bible also says slaves can beat the shit out of that owners can beat the shit out of their slaves as long as they're able to walk in 2 or 3 days. I'm paraphrasing.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I think you're right, and that's what was stopping me. Was I'm going, okay, these people are brainwashed, but they were willingly brainwashed. So it's like, do they deserve the crap they're getting, or no? We know better, and maybe we should help them. Like, what do you do? What do you do?
Well, I tell you what you do right away. Across the board, you revoke tax-exempt status for all religions, and you make all of these multi-billion-dollar powerhouses pay taxes. Joel Osteen, pay your fucking taxes. Yeah. Catholic Church, pay your fucking taxes. Christian, all you pay your taxes. There should be no reason that religious ideology is protected from taxes. I've never understood.
Yeah, I've never understood that either. I think that Scientology became Scientology because of a tax evasion issue, because of what we learned about L. Ron Hubbard. So I would argue you're right. I would say that would definitely end that issue. I don't know if it would end the big corporation that is the American Catholic Church. But you're right. It would now have to make them put everything above board.
I did some research last year, and from what I could tell, from appearances, it looks like, based on what the estimated earnings of all these churches are, and obviously they're estimated because they're not required by law to disclose any of this information, that it's estimated that $7.2 billion goes uncollected every year from churches.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because people like me, if I donate to a charity or a charitable organization, and if one of them happens to be a church, I have to claim that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the IRS knows. Yeah, absolutely. The United States government knows.
And I'm thinking, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there are lots of religious charities that do tons of good.
Sure.
They do wonderful good. But I personally, as a non-believer, take issue with, well, we're only going to do good for you if you're willing to sit through our indoctrination for an hour, and then we'll feed you.
No, you're right. You're right. I get it. I totally get it. And Ken and I have, a lot of these things that you're bringing up, Ken and I have definitely covered in the past.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah. No, and we love it. We love it. This is, and dude, this is
good to revisit all of it. Like, seriously, like it's, I feel like this stuff needs to be just hammered.
Banged in. Yeah, exactly.
So let's touch on the whole reason why this got brought up in the first place was because of the Indiana situation, right. The pizza place.
So, do you want to run with that, Ken?
Well, I'm gonna,
because you haven't said anything so far.
I'm just gonna sort of paraphrase here, but a question was posed to a. Well, you actually have the proposed law, do you not? The
freedom of religion.
Yeah, the RFRA, the restoration of, or the Religious Freedom Restoration.
Okay, yeah. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993 was for the Indiana legislation, and then they wanted to make amendments to it
that basically allow a business to act as a person. Once again,
like our Hobby Lobby discussion.
Yeah, right. And discriminate against somebody. If my religion says that I can't serve blonde-haired and blue-eyed people, apparently that's okay.
And in full disclosure, they have already re-amended the law to prohibit any specific discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So they quickly covered their asses, but the offense was already made.
Well, and in getting there, you had tons of uproar from the religious zealots in this country.
Yeah,
that said that's ridiculous. We should be able to discriminate against these people because it's against my religion.
So to which I say, okay, let's put that shoe on the other foot. There's and I have a quote here that I thought was pretty interesting. When I found this, I saved it because I actually was impressed by the thought process of this particular nurse, a nurse by the name of Isabel Holland. And she says, "I'm a nurse obliged to provide top-notch care and comfort, even to individuals with freaking swastikas tattooed on their flesh.
Yes.
If I can take care of Nazi sympathizers, they can serve pizza to gay people."
Yes.
So
yes.
The question: if you're a doctor and let's just say, since we're pushing buttons and hot points.
Yeah, do it.
Let's say you have a Jewish doctor, and let's say an Arab with known terrorist ties comes into the hospital and he's bleeding. Or no, let's just say he doesn't. Let's not even go that far. Let's just say a Muslim Arab comes into the hospital and this Israeli Jewish doctor working in the hospital says, "No, based on my faith, I'm not going to serve this person. I'm not going to treat this person." Is that acceptable?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And let's take it one step further. Let's do the reverse racism. Let's take an Arab doctor, and he says, "No, I don't treat Christians."
Yeah.
Well, is that acceptable? Of course not.
Right.
But for what I see happening, the reverse racism that you just talked about there would be more of an uproar, especially in this country, for that.
Oh, insanely so.
Yeah. Anytime a Christian is sort of questioned or ridiculed or discriminated against, it's brought up in the news, and when the reverse happens, it's sort of, well,
I don't know.
Right,
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that.
Which news sources you watch.
Well, yeah, there's that. There's that. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I would definitely agree with that 20 years ago, for sure. Now I don't know. I think that anti-Christianity has a very large voice. And I mean, just this whole Indiana situation itself was a great example how those who would have been discriminated against absolutely rose up and said no. And that was a huge story. I don't think anybody was like, "Oh, those poor Christians." Well, I don't know, maybe they were, but yeah, where I'm at is I want to go back a little bit to what MVP was talking about, because I love that. If you're a doctor, you don't get to choose. If you're a fireman or a policeman, right, you don't get to choose.
No, if you're a policeman, you do get to choose.
Well, yeah. That's another podcast, man. We'll have you back for sure. But yeah, you're not supposed to choose. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. When you're in a position like that, and so I would argue that if you're a business, you have to. You know what I mean?
Okay,
you have to serve the. If your job is to serve the public, you have to serve the public. So you don't get to discriminate, and that's why we have anti-discrimination laws.
So here's my question: what is the discrimination?
Whether or not they're effective, I don't know. But
if you own your own,
I don't know how much Ken has told you. I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian who I'm a comedian who believes in God and is not a liberal Democrat. So right off the bat, I'm singled out. You know. But when I do comedy, I'm often thrown into situations where it's what would be considered blasphemous. I'm often thrown into situations where it would be considered anti-libertarian or conservative or whichever way I lean. But my job is to perform for the public. Do I go in the corner and cry because I've somehow offended my God? No. I'm able to compartmentalize and say that's,
He wasn't watching you anyway. He was too busy watching the football game, deciding the outcome of that.
Right, exactly. Whatever team Tim Tebow's on, right? I got you.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Let me ask this, okay? Because I can see both sides of the argument, and I blow people's minds when I say, because my cousin and I were talking about this just before the podcast, and we have businesses here that say we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
That's fair.
You see signs on the door that say no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Right.
So if you're gay and you walk into my shop and I own a pizza shop and I know you're gay and I don't want to serve you because you're gay, can I just say I reserve the right not to serve you?
Is it because I'm gay or because I'm coming in with no shirt, though?
No, because I don't want to.
That was a joke. It was a joke.
If you're walking in with no shirt, you're probably gay anyway.
Oh, man. Oh.
With booby tassels.
No, you're absolutely right. And I've had the same conversation, and I brought that same point up. I
used to serve you because I don't want to.
How about you can reserve the right to refuse service, but how about you don't be a dick about it?
Okay, well, here's the question that my cousin brought up, or a really good point. Like when we looked at the 60s and the segregation, desegregation. He was saying, why the fuck would you want to sit at a counter where you're not wanted? Why don't you go somewhere and take your money where you are wanted? What's the point of saying, well, I'm going to make you take my money? Well, no, why don't you just go somewhere else? Because, if I go somewhere and I don't like the service or I'm not treated well, and it's happened in the past, okay, sure. Fine, I'll take my money elsewhere. But let's say you have a bar. And you have you play David Allan Coe all the time, and you've got rebel flags on the walls, and there's all kinds of imagery that is would be offensive to black people, and you have a sign on the door that says, "We don't want niggers in here, but we have to let them in."
Would you want to go there?
We'll let you in if you want to come in, but you're not wanted here. Would you still go in? Would you say, "God damn it, you have to serve me"? Why would you want to be there?
That's a really good question.
Well, and I guess I say that it wasn't just the case that a few businesses, a few establishments were doing that. It was pretty much across the board. And I think, it took the government stepping in and saying, like, this has to stop. Well, you don't have to go drink at a different drinking fountain if you have a fucking darker tan than the guy, standing next to you. Part of me loves this idea this libertarian idea that will just let businesses figure it out for themselves. But would businesses figure it out for themselves?
Well, I think they would be forced to fail if they couldn't. To go back.
Well, we live in a society though where like 75% of the people just follow along with.
Okay, but now hold on.
With something, they follow along.
Yeah, no, I got you. Hold on. So what Hassan's saying. And we'll use that, that southern, hillbilly thing that you're talking about, because I totally, I can see the bar in my head,
Mm-hmm.
It's got, I believe you. It's got Confederate flags everywhere, which is basically like you're saying, it's basically a sign saying that, which I'm deathly afraid to even repeat. So you go ahead and do that all you want. But yeah, it's like that sign, right? And the question is would you even want to go there? I would say if you don't want to go there, you shouldn't go there because in time, I would argue that they would fail because they're losing business, because the bar next door that doesn't have signs like that up, that caters to you and everyone, is gonna far succeed compared to the place that's only trying to take care of a specific clientele.
But it seems to me right now, especially in this day and age, that there is a specific clientele that would go out of their way to frequent that establishment.
Okay. Yeah.
And they probably wouldn't fail. If you look at these businesses, I remember the one bakery that wouldn't make the wedding cake for the gay couple, the florist, the pizza guy. As soon as they do this, they make national headlines. Then
everybody goes and supports them. You're right.
And you know, aside from the support that they get from like-minded people, they get these GoFundMe accounts that are filled with, you know, in some cases, 6 figures. People donate to that cause.
Okay, now, and I agree with you. And I agree with Ken, unfortunately, that it's people are sheep, and they just kind of go with the flow. Whereas there needs to be more pride in your patriotism. I, as a Christian, when that whole Chick-fil-A thing went down, and I don't mind saying it, when that whole Chick-fil-A thing went down and they got a huge influx of everybody going to Chick-fil-A, I stopped going because I was like, really? I didn't agree with it.
Yeah, I get that. And you know, it's well, let's back up for just a second. And I think one of the problems is that I think most of the people who are aware of the RFRA don't understand the spirit of the law. And I give the example of, I don't know, maybe it was Pennsylvania or something like that, where they were having a problem with Amish buggies on the road at night. Mm-hmm. According to the state statute, if you have a vehicle on the road, you have to have some sort of lights on your vehicle. Well, naturally, the Amish don't do that. So what do? We have to respect the Amish in their beliefs, not to use technology, electricity. So they were able to come to an impasse. Not an impasse,
compromise.
Compromise, thank you. Yeah. Where, okay, now Amish buggies have reflective tape and lanterns.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the spirit of the law was, to deal with things like that, where, okay, you got a statute on the books that is blanket painting everything, but, you know, over here we have this issue. Okay, well, we have to, you know, make an exception for these people for that.
So let me ask you, let me just stop you right here, and I apologize for cutting you off, but let me ask you, would you agree that was a good example of how to keep the government from legislating somebody's religious liberties?
I think so.
Okay. And why would you think that and again, I totally understand that this is a loaded question, but I'm only asking it for the sake of sparking the conversation. But why would you consider that to be a fair compromise and not allowing a pizza company to say, I can't serve you?
Okay.
Regardless of my personal opinion matter, I'm just asking that.
Okay, well, first of all, because we're talking about a public safety issue that involves everyone, regardless of what you believe. It doesn't, as a matter of fact, you know, if you're shooting down a highway and you don't see this horse and cart, then you may go meet that maker that you believe in, because these people get
and take other people's lives too.
And other, you know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general, it affects everyone across the board equally. Okay. So you're talking about a public safety issue. And in this case, they were able to make a compromise that didn't infringe upon their religious beliefs, but was able to meet the laws and standards that we have in place as a society. Okay, I'll give you a little, you give me a little, hey, problem solved, we're all good. And in relation to not serving someone because of your faith, well, now you're talking about a specific segment of society. Well, we'll serve everybody but Japanese people. Right. We'll serve everybody but Jewish people. Okay, that's the difference.
Okay. Would you think that it would be different if Christians, because that's really who's having the problem with the homosexuality, I would argue. I don't know enough about Islam and Judaism, but the Christians have the loudest voice in America about that. Right. Would you think that the shoe would be flipped if all of a sudden these gay-owned businesses said, we won't serve you because you're Christians?
Imagine the
war on Christianity.
The war on Christianity.
Okay.
And can I just make a side note?
Please do.
It seems that there are so many people today who practice a faith and know little about it beyond what they've been told in brief, 30, 60-second talking points.
Yeah, of course.
I have people that will profess to be Christians, and then I'll talk to them about their holy book and certain things that are in their holy book that they're completely unaware of.
Yeah.
And specifically the war on Christmas. The whole keeping Christ in Christmas because people use Xmas.
Yeah.
The number of people that don't know the origin of that actually the X actually is a symbol for cross, Christos, Christ. It is Christmas, you fucking idiot. You just aren't intelligent enough to go do the research and realize that.
Right.
You just want to jump on that bandwagon and listen to the 30-second talking points of your whatever, talking head that you listen to and go, this is why. No one's there's no war on Christianity. No one's taking Christ out of Christmas.
Right.
Do some research.
Yeah.
Well,
you're absolutely right.
To me, that happens to be a very excellent segue because I wanted to hit on this. I wanted to talk about the fact that the religious people, the Christians especially, are really talking about this kind of stuff. Where in the fucking Bible, somebody please tell me, where in the Bible does it say that homosexuality is a bad thing? Other than the place in the Old Testament
where God said not to do it.
Where God says if a man lays with a man as he does with a woman, he should be stoned to death. But in the very next sentence, it says you should fucking kill children for talking back to their parents, and that you should kill people for eating shellfish, and that you should kill people if they wear mixed fibers in their clothing, and you should kill people for, if you find out that your wife is not a virgin on the night of your wedding, you should take her to her father's doorstep and stone her to death. Why is it that we say, and please, where does it say in the Bible that this is such a bad thing?
It does not to the caliber other than what you just mentioned. And to me, I think the real issue here, and you know it's not a why. The answer is, and we've come to this before, is that the mankind has a tendency to want to do whatever the hell they want to do, and if they can find a justification in any way to do some of the terrible, hateful things they want to do, they're going to use it. You really think that 80% of the southern hillbilly people who for those of them who listen to us who are now stopped listening to us, who were being, just bigots and racists and just awful, you don't think if they could have found, and I'm sure that I've read and seen things in the past where members of the KKK and whatnot were using biblical information to justify the atrocious behavior. And I don't think it has anything to do with the religion itself. I think it has everything to do with mankind. And when some of mankind wants to do terrible, awful, atrocious things, this is just a nice crutch that they could cover themselves with.
But when the book specifically says you can do it, what my question is like, what criteria do you use to determine that, like, this sentence is we have to follow this sentence, but the next sentence we can disregard?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's ridiculous. Who makes anyone the accuser? Who gives any of us the scales to judge between another person's sins? We set up judges, we set up, a government, but that has nothing to do with our faith. We don't have that right. None of us have that right.
Well, as you said, we used to have a clear distinction, and that clear distinction, how far does that go between church and state?
Yeah.
Lots of our laws of society are based on biblical morality. For example, prostitution.
And they shouldn't be.
Sure, prostitution. It's not illegal for any other reason than it's based on an idea of morality.
And it's not illegal in some states already. So
in some places it's not.
Right.
Not selling alcohol on Sunday. Fuck you. That's
oh, brother, I live in Minnesota, and guess what? It is illegal to sell alcohol on Sunday.
Fuck
that.
But I subscribe to your belief. So why do I have to drive to the next county or the next fucking state to buy a drink on Sunday?
And I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it says you can't sell alcohol on Sunday. I think it's, and again, this is where we get into the whole, is a business a person? We all know that it's not, but because it was legislated at one point,
which I think is ridiculous.
Which we agree. So would we all three agree that the real issue here is that businesses are not people, and then we need to repeal that law so that it can no longer be used as a basis for legislation?
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's the real issue. That's the tangible. I mean, obviously education is always the thing we come back to and say we just need to educate more. But a physical thing that can be done, a physical thing that we can do as Americans is really focus in on, do we really think it's a good idea that we call businesses people and give them personhood? I really don't think that's the case. And I think it would change a lot of what businesses are allowed to do and say. Because at the end of the day, businesses are only the voice of whoever is running those businesses.
Of course, it's an extension of the person.
It's an extension of the person. So it doesn't, but that itself doesn't mean it's a person. If anything, it just means it's the voice of the CEO or whatever. So
right, it's a license.
So I'm sorry, but a CEO of I don't know if there's a CEO of a hospital, but like the head of a board or the president of a board of a hospital or whatever, I don't care as much if he's a dick. You can't refuse service to people who need your help.
Right. And I think that when you give businesses the authority to act as people, you run into a whole bunch of other problems besides just this one, as we know. But I think again, and I believe that you should have a right to. And it's tough for me because, you know what, if you don't like black people and you own a business, should you have to serve them? If, you own a restaurant, you don't want black people in your restaurant. I mean, the flip side of that is black people, why do you want to go in that restaurant where you're not wanted? Yeah. And then vice versa. If you're black and you don't like white people, you don't want white people, and why should you be obligated to serve people you don't like? And even then, do we make subsections like, okay, if you have a restaurant, you don't have to serve people that you don't like, but if you have a hospital, you do. Where are these lines drawn?
Well, I think very little, but
too much. That's
the problem. I would say that the essence of a business being able to have the right to refuse service to anybody, I think the essence of it maybe wasn't biblical, or morality-wise. I think it was more of just, don't tell me who to sell my tea to, England.
Right.
Right? I mean, isn't it kind of like that?
Well, I think this is the problem. Going back to what we were saying with the original spirit of the RFRA, I think lots of extremists, if you will, jumped on that and tried to make something out of it. I think most people, Christian or otherwise, would probably agree with the middle of the line. Like, hey, man, you can't do that. I'm not behind it, but, that's, let God deal with that.
Yeah.
But I think you just have extremists, the muckrakers in every race who like to try to exploit loopholes or small known items on a line or a law and jump on it and turn it into something. And I think that's the problem. I think that's what you have here.
Yeah.
Professional muckrakers.
So that needs to have a bigger light shown on that, perhaps.
But I did see a study or a statistic that said that even though a majority of Americans think that people should not be discriminated against for any reason, believe that it was a ridiculous amount of people, and I don't have it right in front of me. So
the number is 62.
No, there was a straw man. Just make a straw man. But there was it was kind of crazy the amount of people that were willing to say, well, but they sort of sympathized with the business, saying, well, if they don't want to serve to gay people, they shouldn't have to. Well, and then I apply that to skin color.
Yeah.
So
and you say, oh, you know what? I don't like black people because of They have a darker tan than I do, so
they got a big tan and they didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I hear you. I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to focus in on that more. I mean, like I like bringing up our founding fathers because these are guys who didn't make these laws willy-nilly. These are guys who argued and debated and fought and talked about, and they were able to do it as friends, as colleagues, over a beer, and they constantly wrestled over this stuff until they could all finally say, okay, we agree to this, we disagree with that, but we'll let it go for this or that. I mean, they were able to compromise, like Hassan mentioned earlier. I think there's very little people wanting to compromise anymore on either side.
Yeah. It seems like it, yeah. It seems like, and it's something Ken and I have talked about, in this day and age, because this is like never before, this is the information era. This is, the smartphone that you hold in your hand is more sophisticated than anything that was on the first 3 or 4 shuttle missions.
Absolutely.
I mean, analog, your smartphone's digital. You've got amazing, in seconds, information is around the world now, when once upon a time, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So we have a problem with people being given partial truths, half information, forming opinions based on, to me, knowing politicians who know that they're not telling the truth, and they know that there are people that are listening in on this, but these people who subscribe to this particular ideology are the ones that are going to put me into office. So I'm going to cater to this.
You're going to
stoke this fire. And like never before, we have this left, right, red, blue paradigm.
It's patronizing is what it is.
Yeah, and I don't subscribe to it.
Yeah.
I think, that when people thought, all the Republicans suck, let's put a Democrat in office. Oh, the Democrats suck, let's put a Republican in office.
And that's all that's happening now.
And you get the same thing over and over, and what's the definition of crazy? Doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Amen. I agree. And Ken and I have a running joke on this show, which is read a frickin' book.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no excuse with this technological age that we have. Go out there and learn.
It's in your hand, right? It's probably in your pocket right now.
Yeah. If you're listening to us, then you're probably using it.
My cousin and I often joke that in this day and age, unless it's something that's, cosmically esoteric, there's no excuse to say, I don't know. It's just, give me a second. Hold on. Let me look that up.
Yep.
And within seconds, you can have statistical information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And you have to wade through the opinions that are posted as fact and be intelligent enough to discern one from the other. But generally speaking, hey, man, how far is the moon from the earth? I don't know. Bullshit. Pull out your phone and look it up.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I love that.
And that's an issue we have with as I said, these professional muckrakers, whether it's NBC or CNN or Fox, they're all owned by a corporate entity with pushing some sort of an agenda.
It's all owned by the Koch brothers.
Or George Soros. Don't leave him out.
Oh, of course.
And you get this situation where people just accept what they're told by Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow. They take these 30-second talking points, accept them as fact, and take no time to look into that and see for themselves whether or not this is actually true. Imagine that. What a novel concept.
So what do we do? How do we save the world, Hassan? How do we save the world?
We blow it up.
No!
Blow it up. I don't think fuck our species. We suck as a species. I have this vision that that there are other intelligent life forms that come and view our planet
and just keep on going.
And they come and watch our planet much the way we go to a zoo and watch chimps fling shit. These people have been around for about 10,000 years, and they're fucking primates. They still have borders, and they still praise unseen beings in the sky. If we show up right now, we could say, "Hey, look, we're God," and they would believe it.
Ooh. Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe. We don't know. That's, and then when we get to the point of religion, that's my point. people have faith, and they say, I have faith that this is what happened. And in my heart, I know. No, you don't know. You hope that that's what happened. You can say, by definition, no, you don't know. You believe, you choose to believe, but you don't know. It could be, whether or not you want to accept this, it could very well be that we were a scientific experiment by another life form that put us here and said, hey, you know, our society has been around for 1 million years. So 10, 15,000 years in the grand scheme of things is nothing for us. We found this pretty cool planet. We put some life forms on it. Let's go back in 50,000 years and see how they're doing.
And if we get married, we can't have pizza at the wedding.
Absolutely.
Hey, Hassan, we're running out of time, but listen, thank you so much for chatting with us today. If you're willing, we would love to have you back on for other topics, man.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Me and Ken do this all the time, up and down the road for years.
Absolute pleasure. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Give us your email, your thoughts. If you thought MVP was right on, if you thought he was wrong, let us know. We'll let him know. We'll bring him back. Pushthebuttonpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook. See Ken and I this weekend at C2E2 in Chicago. Come on out, say hi, come to our panel. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get in trouble, I'm sure. Man. Thanks again for joining us, Hassan.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
It was fun. We'll do it again. I hope I pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. That's the goal. Because it gets people, it gets people hot, and it hopefully agitates them enough to go, well, damn it, I'm going to go check something out, or I'm going to look at something, so that's great.
Yep.
Well, like-minded. Great minds think alike, right?
Absolutely.
That's it. You just think about it, talk about it, read about it, read a frickin' book.
Praise Cthulhu.
And at the end of the day, Ken,
don't get hot.
No hot, man. No hot.
Mr. Anderson.
Don't push it.